How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, along with my co host, Ben Upson, back together again to talk about a handful of topics today between basketball, football, and baseball. So, we're going to start off with NBA. We're going to talk about, what's going on in the offseason, talk about the Knicks as well as they finally hired their next head coach in Mike Brown. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA finals as well, give our overall thoughts on them just because we haven't really, discussed that either. We'll get into some NFL as well. We'll talk about the moves that the Steelers made. They acquired Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. They traded away Minka Fitzpatrick, going back to the Dolphins, the team that drafted him. We'll also get into talking about Major League Baseball as the first half has concluded. The Home Run Derby was last night, so maybe we'll give some thoughts on that. The All-Star game is tonight. And that'll pretty much be it. But Ben, how's it going? I know again it's been a while since we've done a show together. What's been going on in the world of Ben Upson?
It's been great. We're in the peak of summer, and the weather is hot on this side of the United States this year for sure. A lot
I
of
agree
lot
with
of
that.
days at the pool, a
Hmm.
lot of days at the pool, a lot of cool beverages. Let's just say that, and it's been great. I know we've been off for a while, but can you believe, Kenny, that as we do our midsummer type show here, that we're only like 6 weeks from football that being back.
I know. It's unbelievable because I go away next week and then all of a sudden it's August and then the Hall of Fame game starts, preseason, fantasy stuff, spread pool, all that comes back,
Oh
and
yeah.
then we're off and rolling. So yeah, can't wait for that. Can't wait to lose all those games in the spreads. But anyways, well, before we get into the football talk, let's get into some basketball. So a lot of basketball stuff. So I guess before we get into off-season stuff, because it's been a while, the Thunder won the NBA Finals. They won their first NBA championship. It was a very good finals. And I felt like there was some disrespect going towards the Pacers just because of how well rounded the Thunder are. But I really thought that the Pacers could keep up with the Thunder and at least make it a competitive series. It was more than just that. I mean, the series went to 7 games. I had it at least going to 6, but the Pacers did push it to 7. Both teams, won on the road, but they protected their home court. Now, unfortunately, Game 7 didn't end how we wanted it to, just in terms of what happened at the beginning, because Tyrese Halliburton went down early, and unfortunately, he's going to be out for the entire season with the Achilles injury. So once that happened, you knew the Thunder were going to win that game. The Pacers did keep it competitive, but the Thunder did eventually pull away, and they win in 7 games. But I thought, for what it was an entertaining finals. I think we've seen some parity in the NBA over the last several years. Because back when we were in high school, it was Cavs Warriors every single year. But it's nice that we're seeing different teams each year for the most part. And for the Thunder, all year everybody was saying this is the best team. They should win the whole thing. And at times during the playoffs, they dealt with some adversity. That Denver series was tough for them. I thought the Timberwolves series at the Western Conference Finals, I thought that was going to be more of a competitive series, but they controlled that. They won it in 5 games. And here, I mean, the Pacers had a chance to, go up even more against them. But the Thunder did steal that game on the road. I think it was what it was. I think it was game 3. It was either game 3 or 4. Either way, um, but it was a good finals. It was a good finals. But they proved they were the best team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ends up winning Finals MVP. He wins that. He wins MVP in the regular season as well. So a great year for him. And he also got paid this offseason along with Chet Holmgren. So and this team. Everybody talks about dynasties. This team, they got a lot ahead of them. With the players that they have, and Jalen Williams also stepped up big in the finals as well when he needed to. Had that 40-point performance in the finals. So I mean it is in front of them to go out there and try to repeat, but it definitely is hard to repeat because I mean I thought the Celtics were going to repeat going into the playoffs, and that obviously didn't happen. But no, I mean we'll see what happens though. But this team is loaded, and they're just getting started with the core that they have. But what were your thoughts on the finals?
Way more than we expected. Just the fact that everyone kept saying Thunder in 4, Thunder in 5, that seemed to be the consensus pick. And I can't deny that it was also mine. I figured it'd be Thunder in 5. But the Pacers, as they proved all postseason long, they just stayed scrappy and stuck to their game plan. And that's something that they can really hang their hat on from this season. Rick Carlisle, we talked about it, during the entire Knicks series. He's a great coach. He deserves all the credit in the world for where he took this team. The amount of role players that this team had to was really underestimated, because behind Halliburton and Siakam, you had Miles Turner, who's now a Milwaukee Buck. You had Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. You had other guys, T.J. McConnell, who was scrappy throughout the entire postseason with his defense. I mean, this team overexceeded expectations, and I mean, it is heartbreaking what happened to Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7. I mean, with that Achilles, the NBA has to definitely, I think, look into this, because that's now Tatum and Halliburton in the same postseason with very
and don't
similar
forget
injuries.
Damian Lillard too.
Yep, and you got to wonder, is it the shoes? Was it a damp spot on the court? We don't really know exactly what was behind it, but the NBA definitely, I think, has to look into that, and analyze those injuries going forward. But that just shows that Halliburton laid it out on the line for his team, because that's who he is. He didn't want to miss a Game 7. I think we all know he didn't. And unfortunately, it has now jeopardized his entire next season, as you said. But you got to give credit to the Pacers for hanging in that series. And as for the Thunder, I mean, I know we talk about who could be a potential next dynasty. I think the Thunder definitely have that potential, because if you look back, you mentioned it, Kenny. Cavs Warriors was our entire high school,
Yeah.
4 years in a row, and since then the NBA has had 7 different champions, counting the Thunder this year. But they are the overwhelming favorites once again next year. I think they're 2-1 odds, which is the shortest by far on the odds list. It's going to be a different look in the NBA, because, like I said, now Miles Turner is with the Milwaukee Bucks. Kevin Durant is with the Houston Rockets. So there are going to be teams out there that are going to make, moves in the standings next season that we didn't expect. Mike Brown, of course, the new head coach of the Knicks, we'll probably get to that in just a bit. And no Jason Tatum in Boston. And Kristaps Porzingis is now gone to the Atlanta Hawks. The Celtics look different. The entire structure of the East looks different. So the NBA is once again going to change. But as for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I mean, SGA just signed a 4-year, $285 million extension. And he's worth every bit of it. I will say that, because if you win regular season MVP, finals MVP, and you win the scoring title all in the same season, that's
And he joined some
amazing.
elite company doing that, right? There's only, I think, what was it? He's now the 6th player that's done that, something like that.
It's a very short list, but I know that some people were definitely criticizing the Thunder for, being more of a boring team, a small market team. Nobody wants to watch them. It's I highly disagree. I've said before, and I kind of wish that it was this way in baseball. I think small market teams making runs really powers, a unique aspect of every sport. And in the NBA, like I said, Oklahoma City and Indiana are they small markets realistically? No, but in the scope of the NBA markets, yes, they absolutely are. I thought it was a fresh take on what was a pretty exciting NBA Finals. And like I said, Sam Presti, learned a lot about him in the post interviews after the finals with Scott Van Pelt and everybody else. What a smart GM. He is one of the smartest GMs that you'll see in basketball today. And the fact that the Thunder finessed all those draft picks to build this team, that's just what makes them scary. And they're not done. They are not done, because they had another first round pick this year. Can't remember off the top of my head who they took. but they keep adding on, and this team is going to be dangerous for years to come. So, really, I mean, good work by the NBA on getting, two unique teams into the finals, and it was a really fun series. I think most fans enjoyed it overall, and again, it's tough to see what happened to Tyrese Halliburton, but this Thunder team has the potential to be a dynasty maybe in the years to come. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like you mentioned, what Sam Presti has done, especially acquiring the draft picks, but also they got SGA in the Paul George trade, and that's really worked out for them, um, as we discussed. So let's get into some of the other things. So I know we wanted to talk a little bit about Kevin Durant being traded, Mike Brown getting hired. I don't know what I mean. I guess we're obviously going to combine both, but first with the Durant trade, I feel like when you talk about Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, they're obviously nearing the end of their careers. LeBron, I mean, who knows? I mean, could this be it for him? I mean, he's alluded to it like the past couple of seasons, but he did pick up his player option, so he's going to be sticking around at least for one more year with Luka. But it's either they get traded to a different team, put in a situation where they don't necessarily have to carry the entire load, or you acquire another star to help them. Like the Lakers, brought in Luka, and they're gonna have to do more with the roster, obviously, and they did do that. They acquired DeAndre Ayton, because they really needed a center. With the Warriors, they got Jimmy Butler, and who knows what would have happened if Steph Curry doesn't go down and get hurt against the Timberwolves. How that series plays out. But now for Durant, obviously, it was looking like he was going to get traded. Where he was going to get traded, we didn't know. I mean, obviously the Rockets were there, and that's where he eventually went. You heard the Spurs, and I think Miami was also another team as well. But, the Rockets, look, they were a 2 seed last year. They ended up losing to the Warriors. And Durant could be that missing piece. And they also did add some more size to their team as well. They brought back Clint Capella in the deal as well. I think it was a 7-team trade, which was kind of unique. So, I mean, look, I like this for the Rockets. I think Durant, he could still hoop, and that's something that he has talked about. He just wants to hoop, and I think he's going to continue to do that. And this is a team that is looking to take that next step. They got a good coach that's coached in an NBA Finals before. They got good players on that team. I think they're a threat in the Western Conference. Now, would we say they're better than the Thunder? Well, the Thunder just won the NBA championship, and it's kind of too soon to tell right now. But they are definitely a threat. So I really did like this trade for the Rockets. Durant still got something left in the tank. And, I'm curious to see how it pans out. And then for the Suns, they ended up getting Jalen Green in the trade. They got a bunch of second round picks. So, we'll see how it goes. They also got Dylan Brooks in the trade. But the Suns had to just get out of that. And I think they're also trying to move off of Bradley Beal too. But that was just a failed experiment with Beal, Durant, and Devin Booker. That was one of the biggest disappointments we've ever seen. So, what were your thoughts on the Durant trade?
Yeah, and what are the odds after we had KD, Kyrie, and Harden in Brooklyn, and then we had Beal, Booker, and KD in Phoenix, and
but you know what? If if Kevin Durant's foot was a little bit longer against the Bucks, something could have happened. But
I tell you, I still say that too. In that Game 7 against Milwaukee, if Durant's foot isn't on the line, things
and I don't even think
really
the Suns won a playoff game with those three because they got swept in the first round. I think it was to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
you're right
not only did they not win a series, they didn't win a game with those three together.
Nope. Minnesota just destroyed that in that series. That wasn't even a competitive fight, really. You said it best. I mean, Kevin Durant does have something left in the tank. I mean, he starts all these Twitter wars, and he's, part of what I call the NBA drama queen club, because all these players just beg for money and want to chase rings. And I understand you want to win. That's the whole purpose of sports. But it's like, um, you know, Kevin Durant in Phoenix wasn't going to do anything really. I mean, with the current structure of the roster and everything, it just didn't work out. And it was time for him to get a change. So he's now a member of the Houston Rockets, who really have a nice young up and coming team. They lose Jalen Green in the trade, but they can afford that. They can afford that. That the Rockets, I think I said in the heat of the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, like I think the Suns won this trade. But now that I look at it, it's actually pretty even. Because in terms of the win now perspective, this is Houston's win because now KD joins a team that has guys like Alperen Şengün, and Jabari Smith, Dylan
Fred Van
Brooks,
Vliet.
Fred
Well,
Van
Dylan
Vliet.
Brooks
Like,
was in the trade, so he's going to
oh,
Phoenix.
that's right, Brooks was in the trade, and the other thing too, it was a 7-team trade, which is the most teams involved in NBA history, by the way. If you didn't know that. But yeah, Dylan Brooks is gone. That's right, he was part of that. But yeah, and Ime Udoka, of course, as you also said, was a coach of the Boston Celtics when they went to the NBA Finals in 2022. And obviously, he's had that experience before. This Rockets team certainly gets launched into that conversation, no pun intended. Now that they're in that group in the Western Conference, that you could say, okay, well, this team really could make a run at a championship with Kevin Durant. Are they going to win the finals? Do I think they're better than the Thunder right now? Probably not, but they're definitely a heck of a lot closer. The Western Conference has been interesting for years. It really has. I think I've said it before, Kenny, that the difference in competition between the East and the West in the NBA is like staggering. I mean, much of the last 7, 8 years, the West has consistently had the more balanced standings, the more competitive standings. Like, there's a lot of good teams in the West that can really, show out. And the Houston Rockets definitely are in a good spot now with Kevin Durant. Like you said, at 36, I mean, the guy's done a lot in his career. We know that. But I don't think he is done. I really don't think so. Like, I mean, Durant's been at it for now 15, 16 years, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. So it was a good deal for the Houston Rockets to make at this time, and now they are on that short list of finals contenders. So I'm looking forward to seeing, where that puts them as we go into next season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, these teams in the Western Conference, they got to make a run at the Thunder. And you also saw Denver improve this offseason. They added Valanciunas. They added Tim Hardaway Jr. They traded Michael Porter Jr. to get Cam Johnson over from the Nets. So they're making a ton of moves to try to get back to a championship and win it. And, they forced the Thunder to Game 7. So, we'll have to wait and see. But now let's get into the New York Knicks. So, obviously, right when they got eliminated pretty much, we also, we talked about the Knicks losing to the Pacers, but we also talked about them letting go of Tibbs. And it took a while. They tried to, poach a coach from some of these other teams, and that didn't work out. And, they were supposedly interested in WNBA coaches, too. I mean, it's just, it was like what's going on? And you had everybody talking about, was this a Dolan move? Was this a front office move? And then finally they settle for Mike Brown. So I don't think it's a bad hire, but I definitely am a little bit disappointed because I thought when they first let go of Tibbs that they were going to go after somebody that was going to be even better than Tibbs. Now Mike Brown has a solid resume. He's worked with great players. He was on the Warriors staff. He coached LeBron James. 2-time Coach of the Year. I think he's made the playoffs 7 of the 9 years that he has been a head coach in the NBA. So I mean, it's not like this is a complete downgrade, but I think where the Knicks finished off, you were expecting them to, get somebody that was going to take the Knicks over the top. Now, that's not to say that Mike Brown can't do that, but there's a lot of pressure on him going into this season to take this team further than they did last year. And it's going to be tough to do that. But when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference and you see that Tatum is going to be out most of next year, if not all of it, Tyrese Halliburton is going to be out pretty much all of next year. You look at the Bucks. I mean, I don't know what to expect from them, but I mean, I think they'll be a playoff team. But they're going to have no Damian Lillard. They actually, let go of Damian Lillard. They waived him. You brought it up. They brought in Miles Turner. So Indiana loses another big piece from their championship run. Well, not really their championship run, but you know what I mean. The run to the NBA Finals. And some of the other teams as well. I mean, we don't know what to expect out of Philadelphia. I mean, Paul George again has another surgery. Joel Embiid is always hurt. I mean, the Hawks could definitely be a threat with the moves that they've made. They're trying to get back to how they were when they knocked the Knicks out back during the Julius Randle days. But they've kind of been a play-in team for a while. Miami, I don't think we'll have to see what they're about this upcoming season. But it is doable. But if you don't make it to the NBA Finals next year, and the Knicks have also added to their roster, they've improved their bench drastically, and that was the biggest ask this offseason. They've done that. If you can't get to the NBA Finals, everybody's going to look at that as a failure. So I don't like to quote Aaron Boone, but I'm going to say it. It's right in front of them to go out and do it. But what are your thoughts on the Mike Brown hire?
Well, what's interesting, just tracing back to all the proceedings before that, is that I think we talked about it immediately after Tibbs got fired, that it almost felt like in some ways the 2017 Yankees with Joe Girardi, when he gets them to the ALCS, the Baby Bombers, and they fall literally just short in Houston of a trip to the World Series. And it was a bit of a shock to the system that Joe Girardi was gone. That's kind of how it felt with Tom Thibodeau. Like, it was a little bit surprising. Like, maybe, I guess it makes sense. We wanted to change. The Knicks wanted to change, but it's like, we still love Tibbs for who he was. And it just felt like a bit of a surprise. When the Knicks did fire Tom Thibodeau, to me, it was Mike Malone or Mike Brown. Those were your two options. Is Mike Brown the A option? I don't think so, but he's definitely a really solid option. He has experience. He was under Steve Kerr for all those years in Golden State. He took the Sacramento Kings to the postseason just a couple years ago. Like, he's been in the league for quite a while. He's been around, Mike Brown, and I think he's got a high basketball IQ. I do trust that part of him. And I believe that he can certainly help guide this roster and this team to their first NBA Finals in years. We'll see. But you're right. Like, it's almost becoming like that type of pressure on the Knicks, because with an injured Pacers team, with a revamped Celtics team, with the mixed bags of the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers, with the Bucks, I mean, who knows? Like, is Giannis really still staying? Is he not? We still don't really have that answer yet. There are a bunch of question marks in the Eastern Conference this year, and the Knicks seem to be the team right now that is getting better and has new hope with a new head coach. And I think you're going to see it too, is that Tom Thibodeau was so defensive minded. And I think that kind of held the Knicks back, which it does make sense why they wanted this change and why they wanted it now at this point. So I'm really curious to see where this team changes in that aspect. But I'm fine with Mike Brown. I'm fine with it. I think he definitely has the good resume of an NBA head coach, and he has it in him. Plus, this team has a great roster to work with right now, um, and hopefully, the Tom Thibodeau effect still carries over. That the culture stays there, and that there's no issues with the team, because I feel like that derails teams in the NBA. Like, if you don't have a coach who is built to maintain a culture, then you're not going to be that team at the end of the season. And I think Mike Brown certainly still has that element within him, but Tom Thibodeau was one of one when it came to building team culture. So that's the part that I think this team might really miss. Uh, but overall, you got to feel optimistic for what's coming up with this season overall. So I'm really excited to see where the Knicks go. They're co-favorites right now with the Cavaliers to win the Eastern Conference, basically. So that's what it's feeling like. We might be penciling in next May. It could be Knicks Cavs for a trip to the NBA Finals, but we'll see. It'll all come within time.
Yeah, yeah, no, and like you said, I mean, they have a good roster. I'm happy that they didn't do anything drastic with the roster where they like made a blockbuster trade and they trade like three players to get like a Giannis or I know there were some rumblings like, hey, they got Mike Brown, maybe they'll go and they trade for LeBron James, but that wasn't going to happen. Keep this core together, run it back, and see what you can do. Because look, they kind of let that series against the Pacers get away from them after game one. I mean, that's a game you should not lose, and they found a way to lose it. But it's in part because Aaron Nesmith just could not miss a shot. So I mean, we'll see.